Hello, RWorld. Welcome back to another episode of RWorldTalk. Hopefully, you guys all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. We are lucky enough to be joined here this morning with Dave Gervase from Keller Williams, who happens to be a former president for the LGBTQ plus Alliance with NAR. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about Dave, where you come from, how you got in your real estate career, and let's start with that, and then we'll dive into questions.
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and like so many people, I escaped the winters after school. I've been down here I went to Orlando first, and then my husband and I moved to South Florida in '97. I got into real estate because I'm a horrible employee. I own that. I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always asked, why are we doing things this way? Just because things are the way we've always done it is not a good answer for me. So I'm always trying to find out why and how we can do things better. So I decided I needed to work for myself rather than someone else.
Okay. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that. Number one, being horrible employees, but then anybody who's in leadership is also going to resonate with the fact that why do we have to keep doing things the way that we've been doing them? Let's change it. And that's why people get involved.
That's right. And I always say, I am self-employed, but my boss is a bastard. Because I think you work so much harder and you strive for efficiency in ways that you never thought about when you were working for someone else.
Sure.
So I look at what we do in real estate as being project managers. That's we are managing the project for people's biggest change, and I think that's a great place to be if you're entrepreneurial.
Absolutely. Yep, totally. Okay. So we talked about touched on leadership. Why don't you tell us how you initially got into leadership? I mean, you were you're the past president of the Alliance. So what led you up that road? What kind of change did you see that needed to happen in our industry as you decided you made?
The Alliance is a really interesting story. There was a previous organization that advocated for LGBT housing.
Okay.
And it did a lot of good work. It actually was the organization that got sexual orientation and gender identity added to the Realtor ethics.
Okay.
But when you peeled back the onion, there was a lot of things that weren't really kosher. So a lot of chapter leaders got together, and it was a Zoom on Father's Day in 2020 and said, the work has to keep going. So let's start something new. So why not get together and start a brand new organization during a pandemic? What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Right. So we did. And it actually went quite right. 40 people got together and built an organization based on the idea of ending housing discrimination. So that is flat out the mission statement of the Alliance, a world free of housing discrimination. Okay. It doesn't necessarily say LGBTQ. And that's why we work with the other affinity organizations, NARAB, ARIA, NARAP, Women's Council, Women Up, to get together to work against housing discrimination. Like I said, we began with a focus group of 40 people. We have over 4,000 members now.
Wow.
We have chapters in 40 states, and we have members in all 50 states.
Okay.
Housing discrimination comes in on, we'll talk about this as we go further, but it comes from all directions, and it's really interesting as we studied it.
Okay. Interesting. So talking about the Alliance, you obviously have already told us their mission, the story behind where the Alliance has come from. How does the Alliance support the LGBTQ plus real estate professionals and consumers? We talked about eliminating housing discrimination, but can you give us some examples or some initiatives or programs that made a significant impact recently?
So it's amazing how the Alliance works just like an association. Right? We're there for networking for the individuals. We have an incredible referral network within the LGBTQ Real Estate Alliance. And I think it's even a little more special because you want to refer your clients with people who understand them.
Sure.
So right now, for better or worse, there is a gay migration going on. There are LGBTQ families that feel unsafe in their homes in their states. And the amount of business referred to caring people who understand the needs of the moving family
Sure.
is incredible right now. Engagement with our members, mentoring. We also launched LGBTQ+homes.com last year,
Okay.
which is a forward-facing site to help people find someone who can care for them.
Okay. Interesting. I've actually had, this was very recently, one of my agents had posted into a referral network, hey, this is my customer is looking for whatever it was in whatever state it was. Is there somebody that you can, or is there somebody in this referral network that is a member of the LGBTQ plus family, or an advocate or an ally that we can send them to? And he had a lot of backlash from other members in the real estate community saying, why are you putting a tag on your customer like that? But I think that a lot of people who are not in that community, they don't really understand that people are sometimes afraid of who it is that's going to be showing them around, and they're going to go and jump into somebody's car, and they may feel discriminated against, or they may just feel generally uncomfortable that that person is not aligned with their lifestyle, or does not appreciate their lifestyle and would treat them the same as they would anybody else.
I understand the backlash because we think as real estate professionals that no one would be discriminatory.
Correct.
However, I've experienced it myself. Ted was up for a job. My husband Ted was up for a job in Texas once, and we walked into an open house, and the agent looked at us and said, "Where are your wives?" Right?
I get that.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that happens. I had a client in my car. I've told you this story before. I had a client in my car. We had a great consultation. Everything's good. We're in the car. We're driving down Federal Highway. He says, "I don't want you to take me into a neighborhood where any or this live." I said, "Excuse me?" And he said it again. And I drove back to the office and I said, "I think you need to find another agent." Discrimination comes from all sides.
It does.
So having the resources and having a group who can handle it. And it's also awesome that 20% of our membership are allies.
Beautiful.
Which we always welcome more. But people who we have parents of LGBT kids. We have brothers, sisters. Look, everyone knows and loves someone in the gay community. They may not know it, but we're everywhere.
Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate that some people still don't feel that they could be themselves at all times. But if you don't think that there is still discrimination that is happening, or there are still people that don't appreciate the views that you have and the lifestyle that you live, all you had to do was take a look at NAR's Happy Pride Month post that came out on social media back in June, and you see members of the Realtor community that felt very free to express their feelings opposing a different lifestyle.
I was going to talk about that. I mean, and we have 10.5 for a reason, and it was really unsettling to see our colleagues express.
So some people that you've walked the halls with at NAR, and now you walk the halls looking at them in a different manner, going, "My gosh, I didn't know you had it in you to speak like that."
Exactly, and that's why it's so important. And the homeownership rate in the LGBTQ community is lower than the national. It's about 10% lower than the national homeowner rate, and a lot of it is because of perceived discrimination, whether it be in the loan process, in a certain neighborhood. Particularly for our transgender and gender expansive community, there aren't forms that might be available for them to fill out that match the identity that they have.
Sure.
So there's a lot of work to do there, and right now they're really taking the brunt of hate messages, and there's a lot of hurt.
There is a lot of hurt, and that's quite unfortunate, but still something real that they're dealing with to this day. I think that there's a lot more acceptance in the lesbian and gay community than there is in the transgender community, and thankfully they have allies to stand up for them as well.
And I always say this: it's like I only know what it's like to come out. And that takes a certain amount of self-acceptance and bravery. I have no idea what it's like to look in the mirror and not feel like I was in the right body. That's a bravery that I can't explain, but I support.
Well said. Well said. Well, talking about advocacy and policy influence that you've had and that the Alliance has had with NAR, why don't you tell us about your tenure? What were some key advocacy efforts that were undertaken by the Alliance to promote inclusivity and equality in housing?
So, we've really done a lot. We do first-time home buyer seminars. We have a first-time home buyer guide to help our members work with their clients. During my tenure, we started our annual housing symposium in DC, which usually winds up right after NAR's.
Right. Yeah, this year it started the day after, I believe.
Exactly. So we usually do it right at the same time. And we bring in people from HUD and from the Williams Institute to just really explain where we are. It's funny because we don't track LGBTQ housing, and it's harder to do so.
Right.
That's why we rely on other organizations like HRC, like the Williams Institute, to give us the data.
I mean, I know when the census comes out, I mean, they ask specifically, I believe it was the census, where it asks specifically the sexual orientation. And you know very well that a lot of people have no idea where that information is going. And they will lie, even though it's, this is a anonymous, anonymous document that's going to the government, and they will lie about it.
Well, I think that's one thing that's really interesting is Zillow just came out and that's with the statistic that said 11% of properties transacted in 2024 were from an LGBTQ agent.
Interesting.
So we're a good portion of our business.
Okay.
Other things that we did, we have joined with ARIA, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, Women Up, and started a program called Stop Hate in Real Estate. It's stophateinrealestate.org. It is a simple pledge that you sign as a real estate professional. You are not going to discriminate against anyone in real estate. We shouldn't have to do that, but it brings awareness. I would love everyone who's watching this to go to stophateinrealestate.org and sign the pledge. We have over 2,500 signatures at the moment.
I didn't know that that existed. I certainly will do that, and I'll send it out to my office when I get back to it and let everybody know.
I would love that. Thank you.
So when we talk about the groups that you've met with, the symposium that you had in DC, how have those efforts sort of influenced any sort of change or policy change? We talked about 10.5, but is there anything else that's happened at the state, local, national level that any sort of policy that you've been able to affect change?
We're working really hard. Ultimately, I would love for us not to have a need for the Alliance. And that would go away if
everybody love everybody.
Is everybody love everybody, right? And if we get the Equality Act passed, we wouldn't need it.
Okay.
But right now, there are 25 states that don't have protections for LGBTQ plus people in housing.
Okay.
Florida's one of them. Now, we live in a really accepting part of the state.
Right.
There are other places that are not.
Yeah, Florida may not, but Broward County does.
Exactly.
And I believe Palm Beach and Miami have the same protection.
You're absolutely right. But state trumps local, federal trumps state. Right now, there was a executive order signed, including sexual orientation and gender identity under sex in the non-discrimination, but that will be repealed by the next administration, just as was last time.
Okay.
That they came in. So the Equality Act would really be the linchpin in making sure we don't need it. When I was the president, there were 21 states. We've actually have 4 states repeal protections for our communities. So we are really, truly under attack.
Really? That's interesting. That is not the direction that I would have seen policy going across the country.
I would agree. You would think that it would go that other way forwards.
Interesting. So when you talk about the mission of the Alliance, how does that align with the broader vision and goals of NAR? Obviously, we have our code of ethics, but how does the Alliance stack up against that to sort of enforce the code of ethics?
We do police it. And we work, NAR has put together the multicultural group, which meets to discuss how we can work with NAR to create programs and policy to bring anti-discrimination forward.
Okay.
We've worked with the Fair Housing Committee when they brought forth the policy change where we all have to have fair housing as part of the renewal every 3 years, just like we have to have ethics every 3 years. So, I mean, that's a
And
big...
we locally just added that to our MLS rules as well, because we're Thompson Broker State. So there are some brokers and agents that are in the state of Florida that are not realtors because they do not subscribe. They're not members of the local, state, and national associations, but they do still subscribe to our MLS. And just this past week, I'm chairman of the MLS board of directors, and we have actually made policy change to add fair housing as part of their training. So if you are going to subscribe to the MLS, you do not necessarily have to subscribe to the code of ethics for NAR, but you do have to subscribe to our code of conduct. And then on top of that, we have added a fair housing component into that mix as well. So that way, everybody is going to be trained if they're going to be one of our members.
Yeah, and one of the things we've done, and I know this is a sensitive topic, and I am an RPAC major investor, and I believe in RPAC, and I believe the good that it does for our industry. And I also think we need to evaluate how the money is given out, because there are legislators that we donate to who believe in private property rights, who also enact legislation against our community. And I don't think that holds up to the 10.5 test. If there are multiple people who are running for an office who believe in private property rights, let's give them money to someone who is not going to legislate against a community, because ultimately that affects housing.
Okay, understood. And if our trustees are listening, I might bring this up at the next meeting.
Thanks, Chris.
No problem. Let's talk about one other thing that comes up that really blew my mind. When we talked about, on a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about the Women's Council of Realtors. That organization is completely run by its members. There's little to no staff that they have. Everything that they're doing as far as fundraising and creating their events and creating their agendas, all of that stuff is being run by the members of those chapters, whether that's state or national or here locally. They're doing all the work. Is the alliance similar, or do you have NAR staff that is there to assist you?
So NAR is not part of the alliance.
Okay.
The alliance is recognized by NAR. So at one point, I was chief cook and bottle washer. I mean, we have a CEO,
okay,
an executive assistant, a program director, and a part-time education director.
Okay.
We have a director of relationships,
okay,
who's an independent contractor, and we have a PR contractor. That's our staff.
Really?
That's it.
Okay. So you've got even less than WCR does.
We have even less.
Okay.
So it's really a labor of love. The board is very interactive. The chapters are incredible. The passion and the drive that I've seen at the local level, all over the country, and I've been fortunate enough to visit many chapters all over the country.
Beautiful.
And just see how it goes. I joke about this, but this is not untrue. I was nominated and elected president without my consent or knowledge.
I feel like that's
right. It's like, oh yeah, Dave will do it. The founding year president was John Thorpe, who is also a Fort Lauderdale resident.
Okay.
And he laid out the organizational plan, and I feel that I brought a culture to the organization. You had a lot of
culture is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle.
I agree. And we had a lot of people looking for something. Our first year conference was canceled because of COVID. Our second year conference almost got canceled because of the Delta variant.
Okay.
And it went away just in time that we didn't have to cancel. And I'm so glad we didn't. It was in Las Vegas. The presidential gala was in a nightclub in RWorld that was just insane. But I had the unique opportunity, and this is a moment I will never forget. There was so much joy in that room. And I was standing up in the DJ booth after I made some comments, and I was just...
Of course you were in the DJ booth.
Well, that's where you were speaking from. I'm with the DJ. But I was looking out at the room, and I saw white people and black people and brown people and Asian people and gay people and straight people and trans people. And just everyone. It was an absolute cross-section of humanity in absolute joy and harmony.
And all realtors.
And realtors and ancillary services, lenders, title, but yes, it was the business.
Yeah, the real estate community.
And just, it was a moment I'll never forget. It was absolute joy.
Awesome. So having no NAR staff that's with you, how is it that the Alliance is able to come up with directives, initiatives, the things that you guys do at the symposium? How does that stuff get back to NAR? Do they have meetings with you? Or?
We do. So the multicultural advisory
okay,
group,
through the advisory group. Okay.
which is the 4 diversity sectors.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. And have you found that NAR is being very open and inquisitive and wants to know how they can support?
For the most part, yes.
They're listening.
I know they are. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, Kevin has come to our events.
Awesome.
Previous presidents have come to our events, and just listen. That's all you can ask for, is for someone to listen.
Right.
So
yeah, we've seen NAR leadership team walking the halls at events, and they were wearing the pride flag Realtor buttons, and it's amazing to see Realtor members that are going to NAR events, and then they see that their president, who happens to be an ally and is wearing that pin. That really shakes you up, and it's showing the member that they're being seen, they're being heard, and they feel uplifted, they feel equal. It's something so simple when you're in a leadership position to say, I stand with you, I'm by your side, I'm here for you. Man, that just it's completely it's amazing what that does to somebody's psyche, what it does to their confidence.
I've seen it in NAR. I've seen it at brand conferences that I've gone through. I've gone as the Alliance president to pretty much all of the brands conferences, and seeing leadership on stage do the exact same thing. Just welcoming. It's just, everyone just wants to be welcome and feel seen.
Right. Feel seen. That's what it is. Yeah. Please don't overlook me. I'm still here too. I get it. Dave, looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of the Alliance? Are there any other things that are on the horizon that you want to tell us about?
Well, like I said, my total vision for it would be not to have a need. However, we're 4 years old and we're growing. We have over 4,000 members, and we realize that there's about 20,000 LGBTQ plus people in the real estate industry who have not joined us yet.
Okay.
So we'd really like to touch those.
You're talking about 20,000 Realtor members that are not members of the Alliance.
Exactly.
That they're just out there doing their own
thing. Doing their thing. They might not even know about us yet.
Okay.
But the
guys, get your memberships going. We need you over here.
and just the opportunity to connect these people. Number one, it's great for business. Number two, it's just a really good thing to do. So if we can grow that, and then we estimate there's another 30,000 people working in the real estate business who may have an LGBTQ kid or brother or sister or family member, who you would find a great deal of joy in working within our community.
Sure.
So, that kind of growth, and developing leaders. There's always a lot of people with ideas, not enough people who are willing to lead. So just identifying people for a leadership bench. My time is sunsetting. I'm looking forward to see what some young people can bring to the table and grow, and just the dynamic changes that will happen to the Alliance.
Well, I wouldn't say your time is sunsetting. I think you got some more work to do.
Well, one of the other things I'm working on outside of the Alliance, I am a board member for the LGBT Housing Initiative.
Okay.
And that started, one of my very close friends and mentor, who's the #1 realtor in Ohio, had this idea. And there was a boy in Dallas, I believe, who came out to his family. He was 19, 20 years old. Came out to his family, and they kicked him out of the house. And then he went to live with his boyfriend, who broke up with him. So he knocked on the door of the shelter, and they said, "We don't have a bed for you." It was an LGBT housing shelter. "We don't have a bed for you, but we will on Thursday." And by Thursday, he took his life because he felt he had nowhere to go. And I believe that if a family throws their child away, they become our children. And we have a responsibility for that. So the LGBT Housing Initiative is a 501c3 funded by Realtors, whether they give per closing, a monthly donation, whatever they can give. We fund organizations who get homeless LGBTQ kids off the street, young adults off the street. And we don't do it with strings because governmental grants come with strings. This is used so if someone needs a bed, they can have a bed. We just recently gave money to an organization in Asheville. They were wiped away from the floods. In just under 3 years, we've given away over $350,000.
Wow.
So that's LGBTHousingInitiative.com.
Okay.
And we will happily take your money. It will go to a wonderful place, and it's saved lives. Our next phase is we've just established a scholarship fund, and that is in the name of Jay Cermak, who was an RWorld trainer. And Jay took his life 3 years ago. So in honor of Jay, who was many things, but he was a teacher, he was a trainer, we thought that a scholarship fund in his name for the young people that we're elevating out of homelessness would be very fitting. So that's something else we're working on.
Dave.
Thanks.
Great work. So give us those one more time. So LGBT Housing Initiative, we could find you where?
LGBTHousingInitiative.com on the web, and realestatealliance.org.
Realestatealliance.org. And then we had one more, which was Stop Hate.
StopHateInRealEstate.org.
StopHateInRealEstate.org. You guys have your marching orders as your homework. It is the holiday season. Open up your hearts to everyone, not just those that are like you, and please help in any way that you can. One last question that I have for you. We ask this of everybody who is on the show. South Florida has many hidden gems, and I have a feeling that you're going to give us a great one. You're not going to be able to give us the Cathode Ray, the Boulevard Cafe, the Coliseum.
I've been around for all of them.
What's your South Florida gem that you could share with us?
So I have two that I really think about. I'm a South Broward boy.
Okay.
And I love serenity at the beach. And there are very few places left where you can find that. So at the end of Sheridan Street up through Dania Beach Boulevard is my favorite beach because it's just mangroves and sand.
Right.
And you can go there and you can just chill. And then after you go there, you go down the street to Tark's on Federal Highway for some fried clams and a beer.
Oh, that
is my perfect little me time.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a small stretch of that beach. I think it's like maybe 4 streets where I think it's on Saturdays where you can bring your dog.
Dog Beach.
Yeah, Dog Beach. And South Florida, you would think that there would be a lot more places that people can go with their furry friends, but and we're not talking about the bear community, we're talking about dogs. But yeah, you cannot really go anywhere and be on a beach or walk the sidewalk or anything like that. But Hollywood is very welcoming to people and their pets, and that is a cool little spot. I'm glad that you told them about that one. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being with us. You're doing incredible work, and you certainly are not sunsetting. Please keep on doing what you're doing.
Thanks,
it's certainly appreciated and very well needed.
All right, happy New Year, I guess.
Yeah, well, we've got some holidays coming up. We got New Year's coming up very soon, and we will see you guys a couple more times here before the end of the year. But we'll see y'all next time, next Friday, 8 a.m. on RWorldTalk.